Hello everyone, Banyuki here with another video, and this time I'm going to be talking about a new purchase that I made for my theater room. It is called the Optoma HD27HDR. And as you can see here, I have it stacked where this is my movie projector, my JVC RS400, and this one is now my gaming projector, the Optoma HD27HDR. And the reason I picked it up is because the input delay, it was just too much on my projector. I actually tested it out. And even if I take off all the processing, it goes down to a whopping 122 millisecond, which, as you know, is not good for gaming. And it's a shame, too, because the image is great. There's very low motion blur. It's a very impressive image that it puts out. It's just not very playable. So I was looking for reviews, and I found that this little Optoma retails for about $650. It is a single chip DLP. I believe it's the 0.65 inch chip, and it's not going to be an amazing picture, but it's good enough. I mean, the lights are on in here, so you know it looks pretty decent. Black levels does not have the floor like a JVC does, but it's basically like a giant between IPS and VA panel. I think VA panel looks a little darker with the blacks, but the one thing it does have, it has really low motion blur, as most projectors actually do. So another big feature for this one is, as you can see now, I'm using Tales of Fantasia on the Mister. If you look over here, my Mister is just sitting there, and I have it in 1080p in Vsync 1 mode. So that tells you that it's pretty lenient when it comes to resolutions, as it should be. It is a projector. I threw a whole bunch of different resolutions on it just to see what it could do, and it pretty much, everything that was showing up in the NVIDIA control panel, it pretty much read it fine. So in terms of console games, you're looking at 16 millisecond, which is basically one frame of lag at 1080p 60 hertz. Now, this projector will resolve a 4K signal. And as you heard in the name, HD27HDR, it does process HDR. I'm going to be frank with you guys. I was not impressed by the HDR. I think it's more of a gimmick than anything. Kind of like how this TCL TV here has HDR. It's really not worth putting on. But SDR looks quite good. So, I mean, if you have the room, like I have a blacked out room, and I felt that the HDR was... I mean, there are times when the HDR on the JVC to me looks excellent, but I don't know if that'll ever be the case for the Optoma. So, what's the pros and cons of this projector? Well, the pros are it's a very fast projector. At 1080p 60 hertz, it's 16 millisecond. That's fast. And believe it or not, there has been a firmware that came out, and this is what made me pull the trigger on it. It actually has a 1080p 120 hertz mode. That's right. And unlike the LG OLED that I have downstairs, it actually does something. So you get 1080p 120 hertz. It brings the input lag to about 8.3 millisecond. You're looking at CRT level of input lag, and the motion blur to me is impressive at 60 hertz. It's even less at 120 hertz. There's a site I go to when I usually get a monitor or something. It's called blurbusters.com, and they have these little motion UFO tests. You can test the motion, and this thing passed it. I mean, it absolutely destroyed my Samsung 4K monitor, even with Vsync. Motion blur wasn't even close. These two screens can't compete with that Optoma up there, and I doubt it would even be able to compete with the JVC. Although the JVC, as I stated before, has very bad input delay. So the good, like I said, low input lag, probably the lowest for a projector that I know of, at least for sub $500. Another thing that's going on there is motion blur is great, input lag is great. It can handle a 4K signal. I wasn't really impressed with the way it did it. I'd rather just send a 1080p 120 hertz anyway from a PC. But if you do have a console like a PlayStation 4 Pro or an Xbox One X and you want to send it a 4K signal, just understand that while it's taking that signal, it is doing some processing. So you're going to double your input delay from 1 frame to 2 frames. So just keep that in mind. If you want that 4K, honestly, I wouldn't buy this thing for 4K. It's a nice feature to have, but I'd rather send it 1080p 120 and because the 4K doesn't look that much better anyway. So it's because it's not 4K. It's not even a pixel shifter like my JVC is, which is 4K. So yeah, it's a great little buy. Right now you can get them. They're going for $650 normally, but there is a promotion, at least at Fry's, by where I live, through Thursday, which is tomorrow. That knocks about, I want to say $70 or no, yeah, $80. No, $70. Sorry, $70 off. And since this was an open box, someone bought it, used it for 2 hours, and brought it back. Maybe they did a review or something, and they took it down to $550 for me. And then I don't know why the guy at the cash register said, "Hey, what's your email address?" He was like, "Oh, there's a promo code on this." I'm like, "Really? You don't say?" He knocked it down another $70. So I picked it up for $480, and to me, that's a steal. It's small, it's portable. You can actually take this thing. It has a long throw on it. Believe it or not, I had to bring this back here and zoom it all the way out. It wants a bigger picture being this far out. So as you can see, I had to mount it up there. It wasn't that hard. I mean, the thing's only like 5 pounds. I mean, it's not like my 40-pound behemoth, the JVC. This thing's a lightweight. I mean, don't expect. I mean, people always talk about projectors. Look at the chassis size. Look at that size. And then look at that little rinky-dink up there. But for gaming, it's excellent. 1080p 120 hertz is real. It has a low motion blur, has very low input delay at 8 millisecond. I can't say anything more about it. There's not much more to it. I mean, it's a projector, and it does pretty well for games. And it's cheap. Or let me say, it's inexpensive, but the remote you get is not that great. It's got some lights on it and stuff. That's it right here. It's not very impressive. There's some options that you have that are taken away when you use the enhanced gaming mode. So